What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another video on my channel. You see the same Accord as you've seen on this channel, but this is a sport trim level, and this is not my Accord. This is available for sale here at McGrath Honda of St. Charles in Illinois. So if you're in the Chicagoland area, come check these folks out off of Main Street, or also known as North Avenue. They'll hook you up one of the largest Honda inventories to date right now, so you can probably drive away with something that you have in mind of purchasing whichever day you come to visit these guys. This particular Accord, yes, we know that this is one of the most controversial generations. We also know the fact that this particular Accord hasn't been accepted the way people were waiting on an Accord. I went ahead and bought one for myself. You see that on other videos on the channel, but the more you see it, I think the more it'll grow on you. That typically happens with any design or with any generation for the most part, especially the ones that people are long waiting for. So I do understand. However, in this black color, in this sport trim level, it does look pretty slick. I do like how it looks. After driving this for a little long, I feel like I could have opted for a sport and saved myself, maybe $7,000, $8,000 here and there, but that's okay. I do like what I get in mind, and we'll compare that as to what's going on. I'm also guessing that, a lot of people are waiting to see what Toyota does with the 2025 Camry, so we'll have a good comparison between the current gen of the Accord, which is the 11th, and with what Toyota does when it comes to the new Camry, because the one that is on the road, has been on the road since 2018, has been well received, and quite frankly, yes, it's a very good looking car, but kind of dated with when you go on the inside, the infotainment and other similar things. However, let's go back to the Accord. Like I said, this is the sport trim level. This is the third one in the current lineup of the Accord, LX, EX Sport. This is also the entry into the hybrid world of the Accord lineup. Sport, then you have EXL, Sport L, and then the Touring Hybrid. Front, like I said, for all Accords, looks pretty much the same. You have Honda Sensing housing right in that big Honda emblem. You then have a combination of matte, and then the bumper itself. This is a sport trim level, so it will have everything matte except the grille, which is where Honda emblem sits, which will be a little gloss there, but everything else you have is matte. You do have air intakes here as well, which are functional. Full LED headlights, of course. Your turn signals will interchange with your DRLs. You don't need fog lights with these LED, because I've spoken about on my trim level, which is the Touring, which means that they go pretty far. They also help you in the peripherals, but I think where people, keep zonking the car about front being a little bland, I think in black paint it looks less bland, because you don't have it as prominent that differentiates the bumper and or the body. So I think this particular trim level looks pretty sick in the color that it comes in. As we go around the side, we'll cover everything. This is still 19-inch. This is also where you get into the 19-inch trim level, the wheel size. EXL, of course, drops down to 18. But your Sport L and Touring will all have 19s. This is a 5-spoke alloy. I do like how it is finished in two tones. You've got your brushed aluminum and the black insert. If you go for the Sport L, you get that as black. However, you can always add the Sport wheel on any trim level, I believe, for like about $2,400 as an accessory. You can also find the Honda branded alloys aftermarket on some of the websites, and I'll look them up and I'll write it down in the description below where you can kind of find that. McPherson struts on these too, so the ride quality has been improved quite a bit from the last generation, if we're talking about the comfort level and or if we're talking about the ride quality. The tire size is going to be 235/40 R19. Low profile, so it is good, but it also, you need to be careful about potholes and this, that. Off to the side, I've always liked the side of this generation. It's very clean, no Batman, Superman type of creases going on. One crease that starts off at the fender and then just fades away as it meets the trunk there. Coming to the side mirrors, you don't get integrated turn signals unless you opt for the EXL or the Touring trim level. You do have keyless entry in all trim levels, which is a nice thing. Coming down here, the cladding is matte, will be good for beating in the car. In sport mode, in sport trim level, it does, well, of course you can put it in sport mode, but it will look I feel like it finishes off the look. As we go around the side and look at from this view, you see the windowsills are still silver. The Sport L trim level is the only one that gives you factory black windowsills. However, you can get it aftermarket. That's what I did on my Accord Touring, so that should finish off the look and save you some money if you don't care about going for leather on the inside. As we wrap around the back, Sport and Sport L by factory give you the spoiler. This is different spoiler than the aftermarket if you add on a touring trim level or any other trim level. This is a little more subtle looking. It doesn't protrude out as much as the aftermarket does. But overall, I've always liked the back of this car. It also is actually one of the only sedans in the segment that is rated the highest for the crash from rear, the way it's been designed and has been approved by IIHS. Obviously, Honda does rank at 5 stars, just like the Toyota Camry does as well. Coming around the back, full LED lights. This is the model that, as I keep talking about, comparing to the Touring one, the indicators, you could see how they cut off at the body and don't come into the taillight. So there's a few minor changes from one trim to another, but overall the back is handsome looking. You could black out all the emblems that you see there, so it kind of finishes off that look. Otherwise, coming down below, you have your typical reflectors and then the matte lip there. No exposed exhaust, which is why I keep saying that on the Sport trim and Sport L, exposed exhaust would make a little more character prominence to the car, I believe. Even if it's fake, I think it would add to the character in a nice way and give the car that aggressive feeling, though it's not going to be a performance car. But overall, if you look at it from this profile, it does look like a handsome car. Now, you can obviously choose to not like it, that's totally fine, but I feel like, even though, let's say, not because I own one, but I feel like overall look, especially with these wheels, it does look nice. Though what I do would like to see eventually, even if it's not for Sport, but Sport L, coloring the brake calipers. Because they're nothing special, they're good brakes, but they're nothing special. I feel like the caliper can be black, so it doesn't reflect as much. But overall speaking, I think I do like the wheel design and how it feels. You, of course, have your capless fuel lift there, so it unlocks when the door unlocks, and you have the capless insertion there. If we go around again to see what the space is like, you folks have seen it if you've seen the video, one of the other videos. You will unlock from here. It's a one-touch up. Trunk size is fairly decent on this. I've shown you this before as well, but we'll go in and see what's going on here. So you have your no spare tire, you just have your fixer flat kit, and then the funnel for the cap that I just showed you for your fuel. The trunk otherwise will accommodate, in fact, yesterday I dropped my sister off at the airport, so was able to fit in 2 regular size suitcases, 1 smaller suitcase that goes in between the regular 50-pound, and then a duffel, all in the trunk. You just have to manage how you will fit it, but it takes it really well. Just nothing upright because this does sit low. And then you have the grab handle, which helps you shut the trunk like so. As we go around, let's actually go inside and find out what this is giving. This one has the blind spot monitoring system, and I'll show you the window sticker, but this one MSRP is at around $32,190 or $32,090, somewhere around there. We'll see. To the door panel, similar door panel to every other Accord in this current generation. You basically have a mixture of leatherette, then some leather here, padding, which is where your elbows will rest, so that's good, it's not plastic, and then scratchy plastics down here. Decent sized cup holders there. You do have, what I do really appreciate is these little, silver lining around the windowsills. It just makes it look premium, even though it's still plastic. Just gives that nice feel to it. No tweeters, no speakers here at all. But as we jump inside, you can see that the driver's side is power with 2-way lumbar support. You also can see the pedals having the aluminum covering on it, which does give that a feel you are driving something that appears to be sporty, but as we know, it's not a sports car. As we jump inside, this is going to be the cloth interior. You've seen this interior before. It also, again, shares the same lineup as the rest of the Honda family. Civic started this trend. We'll go from left to right. how and what the stuff feels. So you've got up here some soft to touch, but not leather. Then you have some padding here. Same idea, hexagonal pattern on the vents here, and then no buttons or anything here for your you know, TPMS or anything, because it's all controlled from the screen. We'll go ahead and fire up the engine. The fob, the key fob looks like this on all Accords now. On all Accords now, so that's a nice thing. It's more oblong now than it used to be, how rectangular. As we look into the gauge cluster, this is going to be, again, fully digital. There is nothing exciting about this, but it's also not bad, especially for the price point this car is at. You have full digital, so it's not like one side is analog, the other one's digital. They're configurable to a point. On your left side, you can configure as to what type of infotainment stuff you want to see, and on the right side, you have what you could kind of see about your other vehicle settings. Even though this is sport, still gives you compass and stuff like that. So back then, like, you know, a couple of years ago, that used to only be reserved for the cars that had navigation in it, namely EXL navigation and or touring. Otherwise, nothing crazy to mention here. You have your typical wiper stock and indicator stocks. You have these regeneration paddle shifters. To the left of the steering wheel, you have your infotainment control. To the right, you have the Honda Sensing Suite living in, so things like adaptive cruise control, traffic jam assist, your regular cruise, lane departure assist, all that is there. This is gloss black, which is nice. It's not silver. The steering on the Sport is still leather wrapped. This is the infotainment system. If you want to watch in depth about this infotainment system, I've shared of my car, which is the 23 Touring. But you can kind of see that it's the same idea of this infotainment. The only thing you don't get here that you get in the range topping model would be the Bose sound system, Amazon Alexa, and Google Assistant there. Otherwise, pretty typical. You've got almost everything that you need in this. Some of it can be useless because I don't see all icons or tabs being used. As we come down here, what do we have? Typical layout, which is really nice, dead simple, dead easy to do. You have piano here, and then you have matte around the doors and stuff. So for example, there, that's your matte, but it's a mixture of piano and a mixture of matte there. Piano, more susceptible to scratches, but it does appear to look nice. If it was all matte, it doesn't look as appealing. So I do get why, you know, they went this route. Typical vents, I do like how the vents are, you know, rectangular as opposed to circular like it is in the Civic. You have your typical doorknob. Coming down from there, you get two USB-Cs there, a cubby, no wireless charging, which is totally fine because Honda's wireless charging in the Accord is simply useless because it has practically no grip. So I like that this is just an open space to put your wallet or keys or something like that. Coming down here, you do have your typical driving modes. You get your sport, normal, econ, individual modes here. Then you have your big size cup holders, so your hydro flasks or your bigger drinks can fit easy. These cup holders have been around for quite some time in terms of the space the Accord gives you. Your EV button. The only problem with this I've discovered so far is that I can't tell the range when it's on complete EV mode. Even if you go in your trip computer and what have you, it doesn't do that. So watch, if I switch this to I press and hold, it switches to EV. If the battery isn't charged enough, it's going to go back to it. But the idea is it switches, and then it still doesn't tell you how far it will go. But you will hear the engine kick in, so you'll know now it's back on gasoline. Your parking brake, and then your brake hold feature. This is padded, even though this is not leather. This is still padded because your elbows will rest here. A decent size center console with what it gives you. Overall, it's still nice. It feels the same, really, quite frankly, as the top trim level 2, except minor changes here and there. And then you have cloth seats here. Bolsters, they're fine. I mean, this is not a car that will, you know, hug you as you're driving because you won't really be driving at top speeds or anything like that. But overall, they're not bad. They're comfortable, and they are black. You can always have, you know, a leather wrap or something be done around from aftermarket for $1,500 or something like that, which is still cheaper than, let's say, going for the Sport L just for the leather per se. But it does give you a few more things. You have your speakers regular over there, no Bose, nothing like that. You do have a sunroof in the Sport trim level, which is a good feature in comparison to a couple of times, you know, a while ago, you wouldn't get sunroof in a Sport trim level. As we jump out of the front, we'll go into the back. and then we'll get into the pricing and whether this should be the trim level you should be looking for. Typical setup for the door here. Your water bottle holder, everything else is the same, no heated seats or anything like that. As we jump into the back, plenty of room. The seat isn't exactly set to my height, but I think it's pushed a little forward maybe. But at 5'9", if it was to be pushed a little back too, you have enough legroom. You guys have seen that in the past video. This is where I hate every trim level outside of the Touring and EXL, and that's why there's no air, no power here in the back. And the reason I say that, it just looks off. I get it, this is $32,000. So that's totally fine, but even if you go to the Sport L, which skips EXL in between, you still get nothing. It just looks odd. The most they could have done is actually open this up as a cubby or something, so at least it would give the idea, hey, that you can stash something there, maybe like a chapstick or something, right? But this is just my only zonk in the back in the price point that this car has, that there's absolutely nothing. I don't know how much it costs to put a USB-C port here or just have it be open, but there's that. You have a map pocket here, of course no map pockets there. Overall, the seat comfort isn't bad, it's decent, it's not leather. You have your armrest here, which will touch the floor of the seat, which is what I don't like always, because I prefer that they be switched to vertical so people can rest their arm and can still put their drinks. No through loading, of course, but overall the sport trim level, for the price it's at, it is a pretty solid buy. If this Accord has made somewhat of a place in your heart right now, or if the hatred of this generation is still going on, then this one's not for you. Now let's talk about the pricing. So this one stickers in at $32,195. It's got no additional packages, so it basically, with the destination, it will cost you $33,290. This is of course pre-tax and everything else that you might end up adding, also including the fact that, you know, you have destination charge, which is part of that, then you have taxes, and then you have, you know, tax title, things like that. What's my overall verdict on this trim level of the Accord compared to the lineup, including the fact that I own a 2023 Touring hybrid? Personally speaking, and very frankly speaking, I wish I had test drove or seen or compared the Sport with the Touring and the pricing after all, like towards the end, to make sure what I'm getting and what I'm losing. I think this is a solid trim level to go for when it looks good, if the Accord of 11 Gen looks good to you. Otherwise, everything else that it offers, it's pretty upscale. The only thing it doesn't have, which might make the car look a little more premium in general, is the leather, but you can always get aftermarket leather in a really good quality and also a great professional job done on it for under $2,000. So that should give you a solid car, which you can keep for another, you know, 8-10 years, what have you. Also, the hybrid battery warranty from Honda is 8 years or 100,000 miles, whichever comes first. So if people have this, you know, worry that the battery is going to be expensive, this, that, of course, with a hybrid, the battery will be something that you have to consider in mind. But as everything is moving towards electric, this is in between that, calling a hybrid, and then you have gasoline. It still offers you two engines that are gasoline engine, which are turbocharged. So you can, if you opt for an LX or EX, you will have 1.5 liter turbocharged 4 cylinders. But if you go for anything hybrid, which is starting at sport trim level, you'd be looking at around $32,000 and up for the price, topping at $39,500. You would be looking at hybrid trim levels. But I think black is a solid color. Just my suggestion would be black out the windowsills. You're good for another 8 years, and frankly, the more you see this car, the more it might start growing up on you. So black trim level, not bad actually, not bad. I just don't really care for black as much that I did for white because of the prominence of it, but I feel like, yeah, this one's pretty handsome when it is black and then you all black it out. Otherwise, thank you very much for watching. I hope this was helpful. I hope that if you have, you know, you're looking to spend $35,000, you go check this Accord out as well, and then make up your mind with whichever other car. Because again, it's not only about the designing of this car, it's also about the reliability of the car. It's also about the 75 years of in service from, you know, just what the Accord has been producing, or Honda, excuse me, has been producing. Until next time, take care, everybody. I'll see you guys in a different video. Take care.